Hello friend, this is Lilia. I'm going to do a CPE speaking test for you today. Don't have any partners here, which means I'll have to be creative, but I hope we can get through the test in just the right amount of time that you have in the exam. Part 1. This is where I'll be talking about my super exciting personal life, and I will have about 15 seconds to respond to every question. The overall duration of this part is about 2 minutes. First of all, we'd like to know something about you. Where are you from? I'm a local. I'm actually from Kiev, Ukraine, the city where we are right now. I'm working and studying at the moment. I like to consider myself to be at the intersection between working and studying. I'm working as an English teacher and psychotherapist, while at the same time I'm learning about life. I'm studying non-duality, Buddhism, and religion-related stuff that I'm very, very excited about. You said you're from Kiev. Is that an interesting place to live? Honestly, I don't tend to think of places as interesting or not so interesting places to live in, because I think it's us who bring the excitement to any place where we go. I wouldn't say that Kiev is more exciting or less exciting than any other place on earth, because I haven't been to every place on earth to compare it with. But I think it's a nice place to be in if you're into green places, if you like parks, if you're into cheap stuff. We have a lot of cheap food, and that is something that people often talk about when they come here. How much free time do you have at the moment? My life and things that I love doing, which is something that I do all the time. And I think that qualifies for having all the time in the world. So all the time I have is free time. What would your dream be? I would really love to be contagious for other people and to infect them with the biophilia that I experience, the love for life. So everything that I do is permeated, I hope to think so, with this sense of passion and love and affection for everything that is being. Now, in the second part of the exam, my partner and I will have to be doing something together. The examiner will go like this. Now, in this part of the test, you're going to do something together. Here are some pictures of people in different situations. First, I'd like you to look at pictures A and D and talk together about how common these situations are in your country. You have about a minute for this, so don't worry if I interrupt you. If you don't mind, I would be very happy to start the conversation. Is that okay? So generally, I think that it's not random that we're talking about those two things, because they're currently on the rise in terms of their popularity in my country. In the first picture, we can see a restaurant, a place where people come together to have a glass of wine, to relax, to wind down a bit. Whereas in the second picture, we see that the people are engaged in some beehive activity, maybe cleaning the beehive or collecting some honey, which is also something that people are becoming more interested in as they're moving away from a busy city to spend time in a quiet, serene, pristine place in nature. And I think both of those pictures share a commonality by means of which people are discovering that there is more to life than simply being in the office and earning money and accumulating material possessions. Thank you. Now look at all the pictures. I'd like you to imagine that a television documentary is being produced on working in the food industry. These pictures show some of the issues that are being considered. Talk together about the different issues related to working in the food industry that these pictures show. Then decide which issue might stimulate most interest. You have about 3 minutes to talk about this. Shall we start by talking about picture A, where clearly some people having some food, a takeaway or just eating out, are shown? It's really interesting to look at this illustration because I think that it shows an experience that so many of us share, so everybody will have something to relate to when this scene is being unfolded in front of our eyes in a documentary, don't you think? And then in the second picture, there is this, is it an ice cream wagon? Something that many kids would resonate with? Have you had an experience of being around an ice cream wagon? One of the issues might be loneliness, just sitting inside that little booth, inside that cabin, and just folding some shawarma or maybe some burgers might be a wastage of human resource. And then in the third picture, picture C, we can definitely see the inner workings of being in a factory. This woman, I guess, is she making bakery? Is she rolling pastry? Something like that? Just look at her. It looks like she's really focusing on whatever it is that she's doing. However, I think this person may experience a deep psychological pressure due to the fact that she is involved in something which she has very little control over. So perhaps her factory could establish a law by means of which she would have to wear a mask all the time due to coronavirus pandemic, not being able to take off that mask. And if, for example, by unlucky coincidence, her boss walks in and she would be wiping her nose with her hand, for example, and for that she would have to have removed her mask, then she might get into trouble and pay a large fine. And then as we're talking about the D picture, about the beehive, one of the issues might be the fact that it might be kind of difficult to market this activity in certain environments. For instance, in our country, the ecological thinking is on the rise. So people are getting interested in organic farming, for example. So people like that might be very much into beehive activity. Sleeping on beehives and having organic farm honey might be a great thing. But those people who are doing this thing, who are within this industry, might get exposed to severe wind, to unpredictability that I'm not aware of because I'm not a beehive specialist, but for example, weather unpredictability. And also, I'm not very sure, but perhaps bees don't produce as much honey as it would be lucrative for a business to maintain, to sustain itself. So not very sure about that. What would be your thoughts on that? Thank you. So in this part of the test, you're going to talk about something on your own. After you talk, your partner will have an additional question to respond to. You will have to go for about 2 minutes responding to your question. So please go ahead, and here is your card. As Buddha said, the middle way is the best. So let's follow his advice. Asking him for advice in that respect would be a good idea, I think. So when we're talking about education, I don't think that the current education system is aligned in the way that promotes individual well-being, because I don't think that in my country in particular, there is enough focus and concentration on one finding their life purpose. With that in mind, many parents give recommendations to their children, caring about their financial well-being, caring about their physical survival. However, if a person is growing up in a country that promotes certain areas of employment, but their personal inclinations run contrary to those mainstream areas of employment, they may find it very difficult to find their place in that world, in that country. And I think they might seek therapy or help or coaching from a professional who will help them align their own being with whatever it is they're experiencing in this world. When we're talking work, if you're a novice, I think it might be valuable to ask for advice from someone who would be your mentor. And becoming a mentee and really caring about the things that you are doing and just attending to your work and applying yourself to that, I think that will give one confidence to turn into someone who does not need advice in time. And in terms of different ages, we all go through different stages of development. I think it's best that we seek someone who is an expert in our field, but then we also have to explore our own epistemology, the way in which we know which is right and which is wrong, and how our mind filters reality and deceives itself. So there are so many things to take into consideration when we're dealing with this advice-seeking thing. The middle way is the best, to make a full circle and to go back to Buddha's words. So shouldn't we do that?